YouTube Ozick going. The Goat House is back today. 2022 fan voted mock draft. We do this every year. You guys vote on our Twitter for all first round picks, and we're going to break it down here. So we see the fan voted mock draft. We'll have maybe two more mock drafts, and we'll have one last second. The final predictions as well. We got position rankings going on. Still got to get to a big board and a lot more here with exactly a week to go. So it's a good time of the year here. Make sure you join us, like, subscribe to notifications on, follow our Twitter. Very important. There's a link down below for that to stay involved with all this type of stuff here. A lot of it going on. Here, this is where the polls went down. You guys voted, and we're going to break it down right now. Pretty much to summarize how unpredictable and wild this draft is going to be, because I do this fan voted mock every year, and on Twitter you only can have 4 selections, obviously 4 options on a poll, and every year it's like, all right, there's the 4 for that team, it makes sense, there's the 4 for that team, and never really have any trouble. This year is like I can put about 15 guys, maybe exaggerating a little bit, for each pick, so it's going to be a surprising, unpredictable draft, and we kind of figured that as it was. But you guys voted for Aiden Hutchinson to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Not a surprise there. It feels like that definitely could be the pick. Some hype on potentially Trayvon Walker from Georgia, and then some, maybe a little bit on the offensive lineman, Evan Neal, Ikem Ekwonu. Doesn't really feel like it's going to be Kayvon Thibodeau. I think he's worthy of the pick. Be pretty surprising if it is, but you guys voted for Hutchinson. Was at 58.1%. Voted. You can check that out on Twitter. I'm kind of looking at it over on my side here. 58.1% said Aiden Hutchinson, and then 32.8% said Evan Neal, actually. Trayvon Walker only got 3.3%. And there's a lot of people that think it's going to happen, too. So that's interesting. Lions went Kayvon Thibodeau. 47.9% said Thibodeau. Then next was Trayvon Walker, 25.2%. Then Malik Willis popped up there, and then Kyle Hamilton. Yeah, I've seen quotes from different sources from the NFL, like people that work in the league, work for teams, and they don't feel like Thibodeau and maybe his attitude, perhaps is what I gather, doesn't mesh well with, the Dan Campbell and the Lions. That's what I keep seeing. I don't know if I agree with that, but I keep hearing and seeing that. So based off that, doesn't sound like the Lions will pick Thibodeau. I think it's a pretty good fit. I think it's a possibility there, though. Texans, you guys went Evan Neal. I'm surprised by that as well. I'm guessing most of the Texans fans didn't vote for Neal, so I'm guessing the rest kind of out the 31 other fan bases, because every time you see a mock with a tackle, like a true tackle to the Texans, fans aren't thrilled about it. They want Laramie Tunsil and Titus Howard at tackle. I think they'd probably be okay with Ikem Ekwonu because he's probably gonna be a better guard than tackle. But do you take a guard at 3? But you take Evan Neal, who I think is worthy of the pick, big time tackle that could play left or right there. So what was that? 43.4% said Evan Neal, and then Trayvon Walker 21.1, 20.6 for Ikem Ekwonu. And then Ahmad Gardner, all pretty tight. My prediction right now would be Ahmad Gardner, actually. So that was 4th on the list there. But interesting one, because I think Houston and the fans there, I don't know if they're thinking offensive lineman. I think a lot of other people are thinking offensive lineman. I'm leading Gardner right now at this specific moment. So then we got the Jets going to Ikem Ekwonu, offensive lineman, NC State. Yeah, Ekwonu wouldn't make a ton of sense to me. I know some people believe Ekwonu is maybe the best fit if the Jets want an offensive lineman. I think it's kind of go Evan Neal or go home, because Ekwonu, again, could be a better guard than tackle. Very solid tackle, though. They're set at guard, Laken Tomlinson, Elijah Vera Tucker. And then tackle, they have Fant and Becton, which you could get better in Ekwonu. To me, it's a little bit of a question. Do you get better at tackle, or are you just stocking up on tackles pointlessly? I think Evan Neal is definitely an upgrade, whether it's left or right. I like that Neal can play left or right. He's off the board at this point. So I don't really love the Ekwonu talk with the Jets, and I've heard that is serious. But 35.7%, then Ahmad Gardner, 31.8%, Trayvon Walker, Kyle Hamilton. So that is, and I keep hearing the Jets want to pick an offensive lineman high, but they have, you could consider, 4 is obviously high, or early is, they want to pick an offensive lineman early. Could be smoke, but early also could be 4, it could be 10. We could even consider the 2 early second-round picks kind of early there. So Giants go Charles Cross. Yeah, I think the Giants are very likely to take a tackle, even if it's the third option here in this scenario. And that would kind of screw things over for the Panthers. Panthers in an interesting situation. 37% for Charles Cross to the Giants, and then we had 30.2% for Ahmad Gardner, then Trayvon Walker. Then the Panthers go Malik Willis, and I'm starting to believe that they're not going quarterback, but it is interesting if they have their choice from all the quarterbacks, do they do it? I really think they want one of these top tackles. If they can't get them, they trade back. Obviously, no trade backs to the fan voted mock, but 61.7% said Malik Willis in this situation. And then Kenny Pickett, then Trayvon Walker, then Ahmad Gardner. So interesting. But starting to believe they don't draft a quarterback, but they very well could if they have their choice of all the quarterbacks, like this scenario. Maybe it's tempting there. And the Giants get Ahmad Gardner with 7th pick. I think very realistic if he's available. I'm starting to think he could go 3rd overall to the Texans. Ahmad Gardner, 48.9%. Then Trayvon Walker, Kyle Hamilton next. So pretty good. Filling some needs for the Giants there. Then Trayvon Walker, who's been getting a lot of buzz, drops to 8. So will he actually be there at 8? Some would debate against that at this point. 42% says Trayvon Walker to the Falcons. 34.8% says Garrett Wilson. And that was pretty much the only two getting votes there. So that's your guys' top 8 of the first round. Then the Seahawks went with Derek Stingley Jr., 40, which you don't see a whole lot in mocks, but it definitely could happen. I guess the question is, are the Seahawks going to magically start valuing corner? Because they haven't recently, but maybe they were waiting for the right guy like a Stingley Jr. here. 43.7% said Stingley. Then you had Jermaine Johnson and a close Kenny Pickett next. Interesting. Garrett Wilson of the Jets, which you don't see too often, but they are clearly looking for a receiver. So that's something. They didn't want to trade either of their first-round picks for Tyreek Hill, and they still been monitoring the trade market for receivers. So that could almost say two things. Could say, yeah, they really, really want a receiver. If they can't get one in the trade market, then they're going to draft one here. Or it can mean they're not trying to trade any of their first-round picks to get a receiver because they have other plans other than receiver, filling that receiver need with 10. So you can look at it two ways there. But Garrett Wilson, 40.1%. Hamilton was next at 30.3%. And then Hamilton goes next, which I do like the fit with Washington, a guy that can play free safety or in the slot there. Whopping 65.7%. Jameson Williams was next, 16.9% for the Commanders. And the Vikings went Trent McDuffie. They could be in the market for a corner, so they take the third one in this draft, 57.6%. Jermaine Johnson was next at 24%. Vikings could be a trade-back team. If Spielman was still there, I'd definitely say they would be, but he's not, so we'll see. We'll see how the new front office, but it seems like one of those spots there. And the Texans get their pass rusher, Jermaine Johnson, at 13 overall, 41.2%. And then Jameson Williams was next. And the Ravens seems to be a common pick, even though it's not the sexiest pick, but Trevor Penning to the Ravens. I do think it's a fit. I think it's early for Penning. I'm more of a late first, early second for Penning. I know he's not going to make it to early second, so late first makes more sense. Do the Ravens trade back? But then there's some teams that would probably take him. I think he would start for them, but they have other options that, they just paid Morgan Moses as well. So maybe he doesn't start, so it wouldn't be the most appealing pick, but just keep hearing it's a good fit. And I do agree it's a fit, but it's not all about fit. At least it shouldn't be, and then, yeah, I've heard it's the very latest he goes, so he could go even earlier than that. Not going to love that pick. Again, I'm more of a late one type of guy for Penning there, but common pick there with the Ravens. Jameson Williams to the Eagles. That was 30. These were close. 33.1% for Jameson Williams. 31.9% for Devin Lloyd. Do the Eagles finally take a linebacker? Drake London, 20.4%. Chris Olave, 14.5%. So that's probably the tightest one so far. They take Jameson Williams. And it's interesting, too. I'm starting to think, because when the Saints, we think the Saints really need a receiver, right? They're going to take a receiver, but they had to have discussed and known that the Eagles might grab their guy at 15, so maybe they know something we don't, that the Eagles aren't taking a receiver. And if the Eagles don't take a receiver at 15, I don't think they're taking a receiver in the first round, and I know some fans would be a little disappointed with that, but it's definitely possible still at 15 there. I mean, they have their choices from everybody but Wilson, right? Yeah. And then Olave to the Saints. Yeah, I think the Saints would really like Williams and Olave, kind of those speedster outside receivers to pair with Michael Thomas to fit Jameis Winston ball. So Olave, 44.6%. Kenny Pickett was next at 33.8% for the Saints. Chargers go Jordan Davis. So he slips through. I keep mentioning it. It's very rare, not even rare. It doesn't exist, this type of prospect. So he's got to go earlier, right? But it's just tough to mock him earlier. And then people kind of talk about maybe it's a weaker class once you get away from the few top guys. So then it makes you think, he's got to go earlier because it's a rare type of prospect. So I'm still thinking he's going to go earlier than this, but it's hard to mock him. It's hard to mock him there. But it's a whopping 67.5% says Jordan Davis if he's there. We think the Chargers take him there. Devin Lloyd was next, but really not too close. The Eagles then take Devin Lloyd. And receiver linebacker, for the Eagles, it feels like those are the two biggest needs for the Eagles. And they have very good options for those two positions, Jameson Williams, Devin Lloyd. But I could see a world where they do not take either of those positions in the first round. I can definitely see that. So Eagles picks, Saints picks, who happen to be involved in that trade, those are going to be very intriguing to me. But that was Devin Lloyd by 56.5%, and pretty much a landslide there. Then Kenny Pickett slipped through. The Saints took him. The question is, do they even want a quarterback? Do they just want two skill position players or wherever it may be? But 43.7% said Pickett. Next most was Ritter at 31.2%. And then Ritter went next. It really feels like the Steelers are in the market for a quarterback because they are, and based on their homework that they've done, it seems like they really like Ritter. He's been getting some hype. So a whopping 66.1% got it done there for Ritter and the Steelers. So, yeah, I've been mocking that as well. So Drake London slipped through, and we actually had a tie on the poll. This was the first tie on the 21st pick with the Patriots. We had Drake London and Zion Johnson. I've been mocking Zion Johnson there. Both 30.8% exactly. So we had to make another poll. And then since Andrew Booth Jr. was a 30.6, so 0.2 off, I threw him in the extra poll as well. So we had three options, and Drake London won at 35.4%, then Zion Johnson 32.9%, then Andrew Booth Jr. 31.7%. So Drake London slips through. Yeah, the only thing about this, they traded for Devontae Parker, who seems like a similar style receiver, but if he slips through, maybe too good to pass on. They're going to need to recruit some receivers because they may lose some in another year or so here with some of the guys they've gained recently. Meyer's going to be a free agent. Aguilar could be done. Maybe they roll with Parker and Bourne and somebody that they draft, perhaps. The Packers, Treylon Burks. Yeah, I think it's a realistic pick if he's there. Get creative with him in the slot, a big body slot that you can run the ball to. I think the Packers, they're a pretty good running team, especially what they do with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. It feels like they're getting better in terms of how effective they are running the ball. And I think Burks actually fits in on that, kind of with the pre-snap motion, the end arounds, the trickery pre-snap to throw off teams with their running ability there. So I think that makes sense for that reason. Perfect scenario here, in my opinion, Zion Johnson. And then Treylon Burks was 62.1%, so a landslide there. But Zion Johnson, the Cardinals need an interior player. They get arguably the best one in the draft with Zion Johnson here, who I'm starting to think maybe he doesn't get by the Patriots, but he gets by them. A couple picks. Cardinals take him, 42.1%. George Karlaftis was pretty close, 38.2%. I know they had a top 30 visit with Karlaftis. Doesn't really feel like a fit because Karlaftis kind of gives you 4-3 vibes, but he did stand up a bit with Purdue, so I think he's capable of doing it there. Then the Cowboys take Karlaftis, which I think is a good fit, about his range. 36%, very close. Kenyon Green, the guard from Texas A&M, 35.2%. So pretty damn close there. But the Cowboys go to Karlaftis. I think, Karlaftis and Green, that's kind of where my head's at too. So I think we're on the same page. The Cowboys can do something surprising. Sounds like they're looking for a receiver, but then you kind of devalued receiver by moving on from Cooper for nothing, and then you're going to value it again by taking it in the first round. Maybe questionable unless the perfect guy is there, I suppose. And the last 8 picks, of the fan voted mock draft 2022, we got a common pick, Andrew Booth Jr. to the Bills. They could be going corner, number of corners they can go at. Kyler Gordon, Kyer Elam, they can go. If somebody slips through somehow like McDuffie, I don't think he slips through, but I think they would really like him. Landslide victory for Andrew Booth Jr., 60.5%. Next was Kyer Elam with 17.3%. Titans, Kenyon Green slips to him, so yeah, they can use another offensive lineman, a guard that also can play tackle. That seems to be an appealing thing recently for the Tennessee Titans. 46.6%. Next most was Matt Corral, actually, quarterback, 22.9% there. And then Tyler Smith, then Sam Howell. So Kenyon Green may be too good to pass. Yeah, probably a perfect situation for the Buccaneers. Devontae Wyatt feels like a really good fit to pair with Vita Vea and William Golson on the defensive line. Feels like they all complement each other pretty well, all in the right fits on that D-line. 48.8% Wyatt, there. So that seemed like a pretty easy one there. So the Packers, you guys had going 2 receivers in the first. Maybe what they should do, depending on the receivers that are there, but I don't know if it's something they actually do. But it'd be pretty wild. I do think they'll really like George Pickens. You get that big slot in Burks. Now you get that big body outside receiver in Pickens, and they do need receivers. So this was a whopping easy one for Pickens. 57% easy victory there for Pickens going to the Packers. So almost like it's confidence there that 2 receivers are going to the Packers. We'll see. Chiefs go Sky Moore there, who I really like. I know when I've mocked it, I've seen Chiefs fans upset with that, so I don't think the Chiefs fans really want that, which is, I think he's a very good pick at 29th overall. But it was Sky Moore, 34.6%, then Daxton Hill, 31.2%, Jahan Dotson, 24.9%. So pretty close to being Daxton Hill, and then pretty close to being another receiver in Jahan Dotson there. And then 30, they go Daxton Hill, which I think it's an incredible fit there. To replace Tyrann Mathieu because his ability to dominate the slot, also move to free safety if you need him to, but blitzing, which Chiefs like to do with their safeties, he's very solid at. So that made sense. Kyer Elam was next with 22.8% after Daxton Hill's 43.2%. And then Linderbaum, 60.5%, so a landslide one there. Surprised it wasn't closer between a corner like Kyer Elam or Kyler Gordon there. Elam 26.5%, but yeah, Bengals go Linderbaum, and they did add Karras. He's played some guard and center over his career. I don't think there's nothing guaranteed on where he plays or if he even starts. My money would be on him starting, but there's nothing guaranteed because he's been in and out of starting lineups in the past. So they could go at Linderbaum, which would surprise some people. I think you don't really hear it much, but I'm surprised that a lot of people voted for it. So maybe it wouldn't be a surprise then. And then you guys voted for Matt Corral for the Lions at 32. Get that fifth-year option on that quarterback, guy with a lot of upside. The reason to like Corral, kind of has that big playability here and there, and he has probably the best release, quickest release in terms of his throwing motion, getting the ball out in the draft. So that's appealing. Obviously, there are some things he needs to work on there, but take him 32nd overall, 33.8% for Matt Corral. And then it was Jahan Dotson, 25.4%, Sam Howell, 25.2%, Quay Walker next, 15.7%. Big question, do the Lions take quarterback in the first round? Do they stay put with their 2 picks? Do they add or lose picks somehow with trade movement? So it'll be very interesting to see what the Lions do. Very interesting to see what the Packers do with their 2 picks. The Chiefs with their 2 picks in a row. A team it's common to see in projected to trade up perhaps to get the right player. So we'll see. Very unpredictable draft. This is, again, it's a fan voted mock draft, not my mock draft, but I think it's very realistic. But, again, there will be some always surprising picks and trades here. But that wraps up the fan voted mock. If you missed out on voting, it's because you're not following Twitter. A lot going on there, so make sure you follow it. Link down below. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. We got you covered before, during, and after the NFL draft, of course. So join us. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.